In this episode we are going to turn something like this into something like this and use it as a model in QGIS. First of all, this will not be a complete tutorial, so there will be steps that I skip over or present a bit quicker. So the 3D modeling, for instance, in Blender, that is not tutorial-like. So for the modeling, you will need to use other sources to learn Blender. So this is not a tutorial for Blender. I will start with this point cloud that I have in a Poetry viewer. It's a really rough point cloud over an area near where I live. And my aim is to model this building in 3D so I can use it in QGIS. I can already use the point cloud URL, and let me just copy that. Switch to QGIS, add the point cloud, paste the URL and add it. So I can use it in QGIS as a point cloud and it works really great. Let's do it like that. So there's not much issues with this, but I would like to be able to have a 3D model of this building. So for this video I will create a very simple model that represents this, that I can use in the 3D view in QGIS. And for that I will start with CloudCompare. Here I have added the point cloud in CloudCompare, and in order to be able to model it in Blender, I need to do a lot of things with it before I can do that. First of all, it's a lot of points. It is almost 40 million points here, and without add-ons into Blender, this will be a problem. So I need to reduce the number of points. But the more critically, the coordinates are far too big, since Blender only can handle coordinates with 32-bit precision. So I need to reduce the coordinates to a much lower number. And I will get back to that. But first, I will isolate my building here, and I do that with the segmentation tool, the little button with a scissors on it. Just frame my building here like that and segment the point cloud. And I can turn the rest off and focus on this building. Let me clean it up some more so I get rid of some of the noise. So throw that away. And now I have a reasonably clean point cloud with a lot fewer points. But this is still too much for Blender without the add-on, but I will still save this as an intermittent file. So I have done this before, but I will not save it as a PLY. I will save it as a LIZ file, and that's can replace that one. Yep, that's fine. One issue, as I said, what mentioned was that the coordinates are too big. And if I want to bring this into Blender, I need to reduce the coordinates, but I need to also keep track of the original coordinates. So if I use this tool and pick an origin point that I can have as a reference, and I will be picking this corner here. That was excellent. And let's see if I hit the corner reasonably well. I can do better, I guess. That's okay. So this coordinate here, that will be my reference point in the coming steps. So these numbers should be noted somewhere. I will save it in CloudCompare, so it will be here when I need it. But the perfect solution would be to have this corner as 0, 0, 0 coordinates. Then it would work great in Blender. And to do that, I will first of all close that. I will open the point cloud as I just saved. So I will go to that location, and that was the start LIZ. Apply that. But here I need to do something. I need to be able to save this without this global shift. And I do that by unselecting this checkbox. And in order for this position here to be 0, I need to change all these numbers to the numbers that are here. So it should still be a minus. So 499018.22. I can't have more numbers here. So even if I try, I can't have more than 2 decimals. But that's okay. And here it should be 6389155.93. And for the elevation, minus 205.29. And now I can accept this and import it. This point cloud will not end up in the same place as the original one. It will be here, but that's also okay. So turn that off and focus on this one. And hopefully, if I use this tool here, the picking point tool, and pick a point at my intended origin point, it should be close to 0 at least. So this is excellent. I will save this again as an LIZ file. And let's call this LIZ new origin LIZ. This save is not necessary because I now need to subsample the point cloud. So use this tool to subsample. I'll do this by space, and I think that 5 centimeters should be quite sufficient for my needs. So right now it's 2.5 million points, and when I reduce it, it will take a few more seconds. The new point cloud is just 233,000 points. So this is manageable in Blender, depending on your hardware. And this computer is not top of the line. It's 10 years old. So this point cloud, I will save this again. But this time I will do it as a LIZ file. That's fine. But without add-ons, Blender can't read LIZ files. So I need to save it as a, as a PLY file. So PLY mesh. And I will save it like that. I'll replace my old one. And it should be an ASCII file format. Like that. And now we can switch to Blender. I will be using Blender 3.4, and you should use more recent versions of Blender, since the support for PLY files is quite recent. So I will start by removing everything here, pressing A on the keyboard and delete. And then, so if you go to import, you will have the option to import Stanford PLY. And I will try to find. So here I have my PLY file. And if I import it, depending on how many points, this will take some time. But hopefully it will end up here, like that. And there's my point cloud. Without extensions, the point cloud is imported without any colors. And you can work around that by adding shaders and geometry nodes. But this could be enough for rough modeling. Just to show you what you get with the add-on, I will redo this with the add-on, and that will also be a bit more visual in this video. But everything I do later on, you can do it without the add-on. But then you don't get any colors for the points, and it won't look so nice. So the add-on I will be using, let me see, is this Point Cloud Visualizer. You can buy it from Blender Market, and yeah, that's it. And you add it with the add-ons. So let me see, Visualizer. Enable it like that. And now I can import the PLY file from here. Point Cloud Visualizer PLY. But I also get a new menu here where I can import the point cloud. But to do that, I will start with a new project. Remove everything. And I need to associate the point cloud with something. And in Blender, I can do that by adding an empty. So to add something, I have my mouse in the 3D view, press Shift A, and then I select an empty. And I can use any empty, but I will use a sphere. So this is something that just have a location. And in this case, it's located at the coordinates 0.0.0. So that is important for this. And then I can use the Point Cloud Visualizer and import LIS. And I can search for my points. This is the original, and it's quite big. So I will use the I could use the subsampled LAZ, but this add-on also makes it possible for me to handle a lot more points. So I will try the point cloud that is not subsampled for this, just so you can see what the add-on will get you. But I have to use the new origin point cloud. So let's see. Import it. Import it. And there we go. So this is much faster than importing points as PLY. And it also looks really nice in Blender. So just for that, it could be worth $75. But as I said, you can do this with PLY formats, and but it won't look this nice. So to model this, we will start with a simple geometry. So by pressing Shift A, go to Mesh, select a cube. A cube will be added at this cursor here. This is a 3D cursor, and it is located at the coordinates 0, 0, 0. And in order to move this cube so that a similar corner is located at this point, I can use the Move tool, and that is keyboard shortcut G. Then select in which axis I want to move it, X, and I want to move it away from me, so I think that is positive numbers, and I press 1, because this cube is 2 by 2 by 2 meters. So if I move it by 1, I will move it half of the distance. And I confirm this location with pressing Enter. Then I repeat for the y-axis, so G, Y, 1. Oh, that was wrong. So backspace, backspace, or escape and start over. G, Y, minus 1. Enter. And then I want to bring it up a bit, so G, Z, 1, Enter. Now the cube is located here, but its geometry center is in the center of the cube still. So to move it to the same point of origin, I right-click the cube, go to Set Origin, and Origin to 3D Cursor. Like that. This means that as long as I don't move the cube from this point of origin, that will be locked when I start to move it. So let me just scale it up a bit. So I press S on the keyboard and move the mouse. Oops, that was a bit too big. Maybe like that. And then press R. And I want to not rotate it like this. I want to rotate it around the Z axis. So I press Z. And then I can rotate it. Maybe like that. If I want to scale on a certain axis, I can do that as well. So I press S for scale. And if I want to limit the scaling on in this direction of the building, that is probably X-axis. So press X, but that is the global X-axis. So I press X once more, and then it will switch to the local X-axis. So I bring it out until it touches the wall, like that. And then I can scale on the Y-axis. So press S for scale, and Y twice to lock it in the local Y-axis, and drag it out until it touches the wall about there. And I think that is actually pretty good. Of course, now you can refine this model with a lot more edits and build it up as much as you want. But for these examples, this will be enough. I might add just something to indicate the orientation of the building. So I did some additional edits off camera just to make it a bit more easy to see that we oriented correctly when I imported into QGIS. This was a bit more involved, this edit, so I suggest you go and watch some tutorials on how to edit in Blender if this is something you want to do. So this was just a simple and quick thing. To export this object, I highlight it so that it's selected. Then I go to File, Export, and to use it in QGIS, I need to export it as Wavefront OBJ. And I have some... I'll replace that one. So this is the main building. And here are some important things. First of all, I need to limit the export to only the selected object. And the normal thing is that the forward axis is Y and the up axis is Z. QGIS don't do this. It handles it in some other way, but other software that use OBJ do it like this. So for that reason, and since I may want to use this model in other programs as well, I will use the right way to orient this. So I can fix the problems in QGIS later. So in this case, Y forward and Z up. And I'll replace that one. And then we can switch to QGIS. So in QGIS, the first order of business is to create the reference point that we used earlier. So I will create a new GeoPackage. Save it in the same location. It should be a point geometry with Z dimension and the same reference system as everything else. If you are planning on using more than one model in your layer, you should have an attribute to differentiate between the buildings or the objects. So I will have an attribute called building. Like that. Okay. And hopefully QGIS won't crash. I had a lot of crashes when working with 3D lately. So add a point. It's not that important where, just add it. And it should be the main building. To move this to the exact right location, you can use the Show Vertex Editor tool or panel. And when you edit the vertices, and you can right click on that point, it will bring up this dialog. And here you can give the exact coordinates for the point. So in this case it's 18.22. We'll save that, stop editing, and probably save the project. Most of my issues have been with adding the 3D object, and some of it has been due to the rule-based editing, but single symbol has also crashed. Now the object seems to be working in 3D, but I don't want a cylinder, I want a 3D model. And I will navigate to my 3D model, the main object. And as you see here, it is rotated a bit weirdly. And this is a QGIS thing, not a 3D object thing. So to fix this, in the transformation set part of QGIS, you rotate the correct axis. And in this case, it's the x-axis that I need to rotate to 270 degrees. And that will place my model correctly here. And that's basically it. You can repeat this for the rest of the buildings that you have in your scene. You can keep adding to this layer and use that for your 3D representation of the buildings. So hopefully this has helped you some to get started with 3D modeling and using 3D models in QGIS. So this is how I do it right now, and I hope that helps, and see you next time.